8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready for the show? Let's go!
Starring Greg from My Weight Loss Life. Starring Brian from Wick Carnivore. Starring Aaron from Brewing Better Living. Welcome to the Low Carb Lounge. Grab a drink and pull up a chair. It's showtime.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Low Carb Lounge. How are you doing today, Aaron?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm good.
You freezing or what?
It is kind of cold here.
No, right?
I mean,
it's not good here today. It's like very dry and like not freezing cold, but just feels cold.
Do you have
If you know
snow
what I mean.
coming tomorrow?
You know, it's funny because my Echo said, I shouldn't say that, it's going to answer me, said something about snow for tomorrow, but my weather forecast on my phone doesn't say it. So I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it's going to hit you instead.
Yeah, I guess we're supposed to get like 1 to 3 inches. So we'll see if we get it or not. But that's what they're saying.
That it didn't say, but we just had 8 inches the other day. Like it really snowed here a lot.
Oh, wow.
We got hit by that storm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
So people might have noticed we're missing one co-host. Greg from My Weight Loss Life is not going to be able to make it tonight. So it'll just be Aaron and I hosting tonight. And then we have a special guest, will be semi-retired Bob. They'll be coming on the show in a little bit. So that's where we're at. And let's see, let's kind of take a quick look at who all is out here. Keto Simple says, talk about a stacked panel. Yep, we'll do okay without Greg, but I think it'll still be a pretty good panel.
we'll be semi-stacked. We're a short stack. Whatever.
So Macy says it's going to be great. Let's see. Bubbles has rules. Says good evening. Champion Within, can't wait for this one. My 4 favorites. Well, it'll be 3 favorites, but that's okay. Sorry. Oh. And yes, in case people have noticed this, let's bring this up. So here's one of Aaron's posts. It says gluten-free celiac disease advocate. So that is Aaron, Brewing Better Living.
Yeah, I'm still at Brewing Better Living if you need to search me, but that's like my tagline. I don't know what it's called, whatever, but it's still me. I promise.
All right. Let's see. Cheryl is here. So good evening, Cheryl.
Hello.
Johnny is in Waterloo, Iowa. I'm supposed to get 2 inches of snow tonight. Okay. Uncle Big Guy says howdy.
Big Guy.
Hello. William is here.
Hi, William.
Ambridge, Pennsylvania.
Hi.
William is definitely one of our what's the word? Comes every time.
Regulars?
Regulars. There we go. Gosh, I can't think today. It's definitely one of our regulars. He's here with us each time. Oh, he says looking about an inch or less snow.
Less is good.
Yeah.
Definitely wish for less.
So I am actually going down to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach area tomorrow to see my daughter that's in school there. So I'm going to miss out on the snow if we get any. So, darn.
Poor you.
Yeah. Less junk, more health says hello. You are talking back up my door and windows open.
Where do you live? I need to be there.
Yes, I'm wondering. Well, so where's it, like Australia, New Zealand, and that it's summertime there. So I
Oh
wonder
yeah.
if she lives there. That, yeah. Right, greetings.
Hello. Got some new
Um,
names here.
yeah. So again, Greg from My Weight Loss Life is not going to be able to make it tonight. He's usually one of our co-hosts. So Aaron and I are co-hosting tonight, and we'll have semi-retired Bob on in a little bit as our guest. Oh, here we go, Mexico.
Nice. Yeah, just a little warmer down there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep. So let's see here. Let me go through. I have trivia that we're going to do in a little bit here. So that'll be fun. Let me pop this up. All right. And then the topic for tonight, healing with low carb. And I put / carnivore because, semi-retired Bob is a carnivore, just like I am. But I didn't want to just exclude all other forms of low carb. So I said low carb.
Thank you.
With you can heal with keto, like so Greg is mostly like ketovore-ish, sometimes carnivore.
Yeah.
Erin doesn't even really label herself keto. She's more low carb. She's
Yep.
healed issues like celiac disease, right? So there's a whole wide spectrum there that we can talk about between low carb and carnivore with this. And so right now, really quick, just to kind of get this topic started, Aaron, do you want to talk a little bit about what you've been able to heal with doing low carb?
Well, there's just so many things. I mean, obviously, last year I had to go gluten-free because I was diagnosed with celiac disease. And at that point, I opted to just do strict low carb, just because, I had read that it's good for autoimmune issues, and celiac is obviously an autoimmune issue. And a lot of times when you get this, you tend to develop other autoimmune diseases if you're not careful. So I'm like, let me just go all in. And I mean, I, like a lot of people that we hear in this space, have had just tremendous improvement on a bunch of things. I mean, I think that one of my biggest, most noticeable improvements for me was like mental, like my anxiety went away. Just things didn't seem to bug me as much as they used to. It was easier to just deal with the day-to-day stuff, and you know, all of this stuff, raising kids, all of the stuff that brings you stress in your daily life. And then, of course, there were things like joint pain and things like that I had from the celiac that got a lot better. Um, I mean, I could go on and on the list of things. And, I've done this 2 separate times. So, I don't know. I'll just say that a lot of physical and mental symptoms improved. So how about you?
Yeah. And so first let me say, when we have Bob come on, and we're going to be able to talk to him a little bit, and he can give us a little background in his story, he's going to have some really good benefits of going to carnivore and healing. And I've seen similar type of things, not quite the same situation that he has had, but I had like back pain and arthritis, joint pain, mild depression, had AFib, which I haven't had an episode now in over a year and a half. So there's been a lot of things that I have healed as well with doing carnivore. And in some cases, if it's not healed, it's at least a lot better to where I don't seem to have episodes of it, and that kind of stuff. So I think that the interesting thing is that one of the common things that we can point to tonight as we talk about this topic, and just see the different people that we're gonna have Bob on. You talked a little bit about it, I'm talking about it. Just the common point is that really the doctors don't really talk that much about it, but nutrition is huge in your overall health. It really is. A lot of times, they'll talk a little bit about, eating a certain way, but they don't go really too detailed into it,
No.
partly
Eat
because
healthy.
they don't have a lot of training on it either. Like when they
True.
went to school, they weren't given a lot of training on nutrition.
Right.
So, you know, they'll say more things like, yeah, you should exercise and, you know, this medication will help you and that kind of stuff. But they don't get into a lot of the
No.
nutrition side of it. And I think it's important to stress that, you know, nutrition is a big, big part of it. And not everybody has the same health issues, but nutrition still seems to help them if you kind of go and eat a similar style where you cut out those processed foods
Exactly.
and the complex carbs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That
Sure.
you seem to heal, you know, all kinds of different issues and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me really sad to see all of these people on these different medications. And I think about how many times like doctors tried to prescribe me this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, everything that's been corrected so far in my life has been done through diet. You know, I don't need the anxiety medications or any of this other stuff that they wanted to give me, things for heart palpitations and all of that. And it just diet. I mean, you are what you eat, right? It's crazy. I think that most of us have learned that at this point. You know, so overlooked.
Yep.
Sad.
All right. So let's see. I see Brenda is on here. She says, hey, Bob and friends, good evening. Just a quick note. Bob will be on the show here in a little bit. So he's going to be our special guest, and we're just waiting for him to be prepared and ready to go. In the meantime, we do have one question that has come in for you, Aaron. So I'm going to bring that up on the screen. It's from the Champion Within.
So has my working out given me benefits beyond what going low carb? Yes, I would say for sure. I mean, obviously I'm a lot stronger, completely different, like body shape and whatnot that I was in the beginning of even going low carb. And just, I don't know, from an eating standpoint, I don't have to worry as much about, I'm not going to say what I'm eating because that's important, but I'm able to eat like so much more than I could back years ago, if that makes sense, because of all of the muscle that I've built and whatnot. Like my metabolism is really good. But yeah, I think I'm going to say it's a lot of great benefits too, as far as energy and whatnot with the working out. You know, it's hard to say anything really specific because I felt so good doing this before I even started to work out. You know, but it definitely helps for sure.
Okay. All right, hold on one second, everybody. I'm sorry. Okay. So I think we're going to be bringing our guest in soon. Also, we have trivia coming up. I want to have our guest in for the trivia so that he has a chance to do our trivia with us as well. Like I said, Greg will not be on today, but we'll do it with the three of us here and go from there. So let me go to our little thing here, and we're going to bring our guest on.
Let's welcome to the show semi-retired Bob. Let's give it up for him.
Hey,
hello, Bob. How are
Bob.
you? Uh-oh.
Is Bob frozen?
Are you there, Bob? Are you frozen?
There we go.
Okay,
there
there
you
you
go. Oh, there you are.
Hey.
I apologize for my bright red nose tonight. It's Dave Mack's fault. He was sick last night when we did our live stream, so I must have picked up a computer virus from him because now I'm sick today.
There you go.
That's funny. Love that.
Right.
I got a wicked cold going on here, so I apologize if I sneeze a lot.
Okay.
Don't get us sick.
No worries.
But it's my turn. I'll pass the computer virus on to you two.
There you go.
Thank you very
Hopefully
much.
I don't get.
You're welcome.
Hopefully I don't get it though, because I'm going out of town tomorrow. So let's hope I don't get it. All right. So for those of you that are not familiar with Semi-Retired Bob, his YouTube channel is at Semi-Retired Bob. You can see it scrolling at the bottom there. So go ahead and check him out if you're not familiar with him after the show, but you want to stay on the show and listen to what he has to say and everything today. So Bob, why don't you give us a quick, brief background about you and your channel, and then we'll go into, we're going to do trivia, and then we got different topics and stuff we'll talk about today.
Okay, well, a brief background. The very, very short version: got kicked out of the Army in 1983 because I had gout. My health slowly deteriorated over the next 35 or 40 years. Gout, spinal stenosis, arthritis, diabetes, then a triple bypass surgery. Then I found Carnivore in, it would have been late March, early April 2022. I started on May the 9th, the day before my 59th birthday. And I was... went from taking 13 drugs in the morning and 9 at night to taking 0 medications, down 155 pounds. All of my ailments are basically gone, except for this stupid cold that I picked up from Dave. I went from not being able to stand for more than 2.5 minutes at a time to now I walk every day. Sometimes just once around the block, sometimes 2 or 3 times. So I average about 1.5 miles to 2 miles a day right now, plus all my own yard work and snow removal, and go to the Y 4 days a week to work out, push-ups, sit-ups, all sorts of stuff. Plus I've started dance class. The whole purpose of my channel, because I am now 60 years old, is to show people that it's never too late to change your life. And that's my story in a very brief nutshell.
All right. And that's
a good
powerful
story.
stuff. Yes, it is. All right. So we're going to go into some topics, but before we do that, I want to go into trivia. I don't know why I just put myself on the big screen here, but I did. So we have a thing that we do each time on the show every week where we do trivia. So I purposely let you come on the show so that you can participate in the trivia along with Aaron. Aaron doesn't know the question or the answers.
No, I don't know.
Only I do.
Nothing.
So she'll get to participate too. So let me go into our little intro here, and then we'll do trivia.
Welcome to Lounge Lizard Trivia, where you too can be the smartest person in the room.
Okay, so we're going to go into trivia. And I'm slow at this, I know. Here we go. All right, so we have like 4 questions overall. So we're going to ask the first question here. Trivia question number 1. What percentage of U.S. goods are shipped by truck?
All of them.
Huh. Yeah, really, right?
Everything you own, everything you might want to own in the future has been on a truck at some point.
So then here's my
So
guess.
that is interesting, and
I mean,
that's a
he's
very
right.
good point.
Yeah.
I have my answer comes from the American Trucking Association, and I can tell you that their answer is not 100%, which is interesting.
Is it
Because
trains?
you make a great
trains
point.
too?
I mean, what doesn't go on on a truck?
Yeah.
I was in the trucking industry for decades, and I can tell you that even if it travels across the country on a train,
Still got to get
there
on
are
a train.
many companies that do what's called last mile service. They pick up at the train depots and take them out to places.
Yeah.
But if I had to guess, I'd say the trucking industries probably says something stupid like 80%.
Okay.
Hmm.
So let's see. Johnny says 97%. Aaron said 100%. Go Big Guy says 98%. Jay is here, by the way. He's saying hi. So
Hi, Jay.
A lot of high percentages so far. We'll give everybody another minute or two to think about what they might think the answer is here. I did give a little bit of a clue. It's not 100%. Sorry, Aaron.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because I really thought this would actually be higher, but than what the percentage is going to be, the answer is going to be. But the answer is coming from the. Let me read it again. The
I
answer
wonder if they're talking like a certain type of truck, or because, you know, if the FedEx trucks, the smaller trucks go to the airport and pick stuff up, then it's not. If they're not considering the smaller trucks and stuff, is what I'm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thinking, but.
So
yeah, as a retired truck driver, I'm still going to say 100%. You can't get anything that wasn't on a truck at some point.
Yeah. William says he missed the question, but here you go. The question is, what percentage of U.S. goods are shipped by truck? Marvin says 90%. William's saying 96%. Hello? YouTube algorithm brings me here. Good to see then. Hello. So let's go back here and let's see what the actual answer is. According to the American Trucking Association, the answer is 72.6%.
That's it.
So interesting. That's what their answer is, 72.6%. So yeah.
That's weird. I don't know.
I mean, like I picture like the whole the little helicopter things that you see in like certain movies that kind of drop down,
like drones.
Yeah, like is that how it's happening? If it's not happening by truck, I'm not sure, but 72.6% is the answer they gave. So that's what we have.
I don't know.
All right, question number 2. How many Americans have a heart attack each year? This one is mind-boggling to me. I will give you that hint.
It's a lot.
I'm not Googling. I'm using my calculator here.
It's like making.
Let's see here.
Making a very educated guess. Let me think.
On average, probably 165 a day times 365. Yeah, I'm going to guess about 65,000.
Wait, was it? Oh, a year. Okay.
A year, yeah, per year. So
I'm way off then if that's the case.
You're a little high. Just
I'm thinking like a percentage of the population. I don't know. What is the population?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. How many million? Are there million? There's got to be so many millions.
We talked about this on the last show. What the population is.
I don't remember what it was. I agree here with Max. It's too many.
Too many, yeah, for sure.
Johnny says 1 million. William says 20 million. Uncle Big Guy says 400,000. Yeah. So how many Americans have a heart attack each year? 330 million plus or minus. It's definitely plus or minus. It's a minus actually, but that's the population. I bet he's saying. There you go, Johnny. Okay. Okay, that's the population. Okay,
that makes sense. Now I'm gonna use my calculator.
So, how many Americans have a heart attack each year? The answer is 805,000. A little stat here. Let's see. Out of those 805,000, 605,000 are first-time heart attacks. So, it's the first time that person had a heart attack. 20% out of that 805,000, it's a silent heart attack, meaning the damage has been done, but the person is not even aware that they had a heart attack.
Scary.
Yes.
And I know I heard a stat once upon a time that most people's first symptom, I don't know what most means, whether it's 50% or 60% or 70%. Just at one point in time, I heard that most people that have a first-time heart attack, their first symptom of having a heart attack or knowing that they have heart disease is they have a heart attack and die.
Oof.
Yeah.
I'm
So
scared.
this kind of plays into my next question. How many Americans die from heart disease each year? And I'll give you a hint. Heart disease is the number one death in the United States, the number one killer in the United States.
Yeah, well, it should be going down because, they tell us that cholesterol is the primary driver behind heart disease, and they keep putting more and more people on statins. So in theory, it should be going down, not going up, but it is going up.
It's going up instead.
And
You're
if
right.
if 805,000 people have heart attacks in a year, I will say about that same number die from heart disease each year.
Okay.
Wow.
Aaron says 75,000. These are good questions for me. 25 years of being a paramedic and 10 years as a truck driver. Johnny's going to say 1.5 million. KD says 500,000. Uncle Big Guy says 600,000. Marla says 700,000.
Wow.
Max is 700,000. Good answers here so far. William says 1 million. All right. The answer, 695,000 people die from heart disease each year. So a little
So it looks
bit
like
of info
Maria
on
wins
this.
the points for that round because she was the first person to say 700,000.
Yes. So here's some interesting
She
facts.
went over though. Price is Right rules.
One person dies from cardiovascular disease every 33 seconds in the United States. Every 33 seconds. About 20% of the deaths happen from people under the age of 65. So it's not necessarily,
Wow.
you get to a certain age and I can tell you, I mean, I've known people that I went to high school with that have died from heart disease. So
They don't expect it probably because they're young.
When I was 55, I was 2% away from dying of heart disease. I wasn't going to have a heart attack. I was just going to drop over dead because when they did my angiogram, I had two arteries that were 100% blocked and a third one that was 98% blocked, all going to the same side of the heart. So I was 2% away from just falling over dead.
Yeah.
And now I think falling over dead would have been the easier choice than sitting here suffering with this cold.
Now, did you go in to the hospital with symptoms, or did they just find this during a test? And then how quickly were you in that operating room?
I went to the doctor 1 week and said I wasn't feeling good. He said, maybe your blood pressure meds are off a little bit. So he adjusted my blood pressure meds. And 3 days later, I went back and said, it just don't feel right. I just tired. And he hooked me up to a three-lead EKG machine, which he had there in the office, and says, I'm going to send you over to this cardiologist friend of mine. And speaking of nepotism, the cardiologist's daughter was interning in my primary care physician's office. So he sent me over to his cardiologist, and Dr. Salfidi hooked me up to one of their big EKG machines and did the scan stuff they can do. And he's like, I'd like to get you in for an angiogram. We have to do that in the hospital. He said, I'd like to schedule you for tomorrow. And I said, well, I have Ohio State Bowl tickets. I'm going to be down in Dallas. I'm leaving for Dallas tomorrow. Do I have to cancel my trip? He said, oh, no, there's nothing that major. It's fine. Go watch a football game. I'll schedule you for next Friday. And that was almost a fatal mistake because off I went to cheer on my Ohio State Buckeyes, came back, had the angiogram the next Friday. They kept me in the hospital, would not let me leave. And my surgery was first thing Monday morning.
Wow. You're lucky. Wow.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to want to come back to that conversation when we get into our topic, talking about healing.
Sure.
Because I think we can talk about the whole, how carnivore has, healed you and helped you pass some of those health issues that you had in the past. But I do have one more trivia question I want to go into.
Sure.
And this one's more of a fun one instead of all this doom and gloom that I did in my last few, right?
Thank you.
So, well, Aaron, you might like this, you might not like it. We'll see, because it's a sports related one. Oh, here we go. Baseball season is around the corner, and pitchers and catchers reported for spring training this week. So who is the only current Major League Baseball team that has never played in the World Series?
Is it the Mets?
No, they were in. That I know from living around here.
They win in, what was it? Like
they won
68?
87, 86, 87.
I thought
right?
I don't know.
Like
The only
68 or
only team in baseball I pay attention to is my team, and they are America's first baseball team. As the Cincinnati Reds, we have won many World Series.
Mm.
And for those of you that did not know, they were the very first professional baseball team.
Okay. So Johnny says Detroit. As
Here,
a
I'm gonna
Detroit
copy
Tigers
it down.
fan, I can let Johnny know that that answer is not correct.
Okay.
They have won the World Series twice, so it's not them.
I think Toronto won it once, didn't they? I'm looking at some of the answers that are over there.
And remember, this question has never played in the World Series. There's actually 5 teams that have never won it.
Not even
But
played.
4 of those 5 teams have played in it. This one team has never played in it. So Max says Seattle Mariners. William says Washington. KD says Toronto Blue Jays. Aaron said Detroit.
That's wrong.
Yeah, it's been a long time for the Tigers. The last Detroit Tigers. The last time was 1984. But at least I was alive to see it. Unlike the Detroit Lions, who have never won or never even played in the Super Bowl. Gonna bring that up again. So let's see. Let's go back here. The question: who is the only current Major League Baseball team that has never played in the World Series? I know I've seen the answer at least once in here, and the answer is the Seattle Mariners. Yes, they were an expansion team, I think, in 1978 or something like that. So in the 70s, they started playing baseball. Unlike Bob's Cincinnati Reds, who started like 18 something, right? 1890 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something ridiculous.
They were the first professional baseball team back before everybody got so money hungry and they started having multiple games on opening day. There used to always be a big parade in Cincinnati, and then there would be one game in Cincinnati on opening day, and then everybody else started the next day.
Yeah. All right. So that takes us through trivia. Let's see. So let me go back here, back to our topic, healing with low carb and carnivore. So again, I put down low carb and carnivore. Bob and I are both carnivore diet. Erin does a low carb diet. So we talked to her a little bit about her things that she has improved with a low carb diet. So Bob, we talked a little bit about your, I think, did you say it was a triple bypass surgery?
Yes.
Triple bypass surgery. So now let's talk a little bit about how you found carnivore after that and how it's helped you and given you a lot of your life back and so forth.
Well, how I found carnivore, I give all of the credit to God, because I have always been a camping, van life, travel and tourism, photography YouTube user. Those are the channels I watched. So I have no idea how Dante Ferrigno's channel got on my homepage, other than God reached into my computer and said, this is the video you need to see. And it was his 125 days on the Lion Diet video. I didn't know what the heck the Lion Diet was. So I clicked on the video because he had a before and after picture on his thumbnail. And that's part of why I continue to put before and after pictures on my thumbnails every day, because that's what drew me into his channel. But after watching it for just a little bit, I realized that it's just another version of a low carb diet / ketogenic diet, just a more extreme version. Yeah. And I knew for a fact at the time that I couldn't do that because I couldn't eat a lot of meat, because I'd been told since 1983 when I got out of the Army that meat causes gout and makes it worse. So I wasn't supposed to eat meat. But because I'd watched that, the next day, YouTube showed me this country doctor from down the middle of Tennessee, Dr. Ken Berry. And I kind of connected with him because I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains. And he and I sound about the same when we talk, when you start listening to accents. So I listened to him for a while. It's like, this all sounds really good, but I have gout. I can't eat that much meat. But I noticed he was going live that night. So I jumped into his live stream, hoping to ask a question. And by the time I got there were already 2,000 people in the chat waiting for him to start. And I thought, God, I'm never going to get a question answered. But because I took the time to be there, I typed in my question. I have gout. I can't eat a lot of meat. Is there a version of this diet I can do? If I'd known it was going to be this successful, I would have written down. It was one of the girls, so it was either Mitzi or Paola, but I can't tell you which because I just wasn't paying that much attention. But one of the girls that was his moderator at the time sent me back a message, said, Bob, meat does not cause gout. You should go to Dr. Berry's channel and watch his gout videos. So I did. And it's like, well, this is wrong. This country doctor's crazy. I've been told, I've known for a fact since 1983 that eating meat causes gout. And I watched more of his videos, and it's like, the worst that can happen is this kills me. So I started it on May the 9th, fully expecting to not live to the end of May, because I knew I was going to have massive gout attacks from eating all that red meat. And it never happened. I haven't had a gout attack since.
Yeah, that is great. So you healed gout. The triple bypass surgery that you had, that was that was like what, a couple of years, I think, before you started Carnivore. Is that right? A year?
Yeah,
or something?
it would have been 4 years. Because the
okay.
triple bypass was 6.5 years ago now.
Okay, all right. And you had mentioned earlier that I think you said 9 medications or 12 medications per day you were taking, and now you don't take any.
I was taking 13 in the morning and 9 at night.
Oh gosh.
Plus pain pills scattered throughout the day. It was a crap ton of pills.
Yeah. Now, was that mostly because of the heart and because of gout, or were there other medications for other reasons that you were also taking?
It was for my heart. It was for my gout. It was for my high blood pressure. It was for my arthritis. It was for my spinal stenosis. It was for my diabetes.
Okay. And how's your diabetes now?
I don't have diabetes anymore. When I was diagnosed with diabetes, my A1C was 10.3. Last 2 times I got it checked, and it's been almost a year since the last time I had it checked, because 2 checks in a row I came in at 4.8 on my A1C.
From 10.3 to 4.8 just by eating the carnivore diet.
Oh, yeah.
And walking. I mean, we'll add that in there, right? Because you are walking. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very amazing. That's got to be very inspirational to people out there that have diabetes and are looking for answers.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
I'm looking through.
So
go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry,
I was just going to ask what your doctors were saying throughout all of this. Were you still going to them, and as you weren't needing these medications anymore, and what was their reaction? Did you tell them what was going on, or how did this work out?
I've talked about this quite a bit on my channel. I don't actually have a primary care physician anymore because I don't see the point in going to a doctor. Unless something hurts or something's going to fall off, I'm not going to go to the doctor. I do still go to my cardiologist because he was very supportive last fall before I left to go down to North Carolina. And that was back when I'd only lost about 85 pounds. He said, well, why don't you go ahead and continue to take your blood thinner until you get back in the spring, and we'll revisit that then. So I took the blood thinner through last winter, and then this spring, when I got back to Omaha, I went to see him. And when I'd gotten out of the hospital, he said, now we're going to see each other every 6 months until one of us dies. And at my last appointment, he said, you're doing great. I don't need to see you for a year.
Wow.
But as far as my primary care, I went there and my A1C had dropped down to 4.8. My blood pressure was solid as a rock. My arthritis was better. My spinal stenosis, everything was better. All he wanted to talk about was my LDL. And I said, you're obviously 25 or 30 years behind in your readings, so why don't you go ahead and pack up my medical files? I'll take them with me and give them to whatever doctor I go to next, because you are fired.
Forget about all of the good you did. That's what he was focused on.
Yeah.
What would you rather have? All of those other ailments, or maybe your cholesterol is a little high?
Yeah. Well, and as we have found out, if you've been watching Nick Norwitz and Dave Feldman at all, it looks very promising. Now, we can't say definitely because the experiment size is very, very small, but it looks like the lipid hypothesis, as we've always known, if you listen to Professor K, the lipid hypothesis is just wrong. But the lipid energy model that Dave Feldman and Nick Norwitz are putting out, and that's why your LDL goes up when you're lean and fueled by fat, looks like it's very, very correct. So there's the bottom line is that we cannot definitely say that LDL has no effect on cholesterol, but it is not a primary driver of heart disease. It just isn't. It's like blaming the firefighters that are hanging around a forest fire for causing the fire.
Well, it's like we were saying earlier too during the trivia questions. More and more people have been going on statins to lower their LDL, yet heart attacks and heart disease continues to rise. So that just doesn't compute either.
Yeah, I mean, statins are $1 trillion a year drug. If they were working, our heart disease rates would be going down, but our heart disease rates are continuing to go up. Because just like I knew meat was the cause of gout, come to find out that it's inappropriate inflammation that causes both heart disease and gout and many other problems. And what is the primary driver? Sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So Johnny wants to know what blood thinner you were taking.
I don't know. Let me see. I think I might still have one of the empty bottles over here. Yeah, it was the generic for Plavix.
Okay. Right. Bubbles definitely agrees with what you said there about the inflammation and sugar and so forth.
Yeah.
Statins also contribute to type 2 diabetes and cognitive decline as well as hair loss. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
there's so many side effects with statins too that, you know.
Yeah, and I was put on a statin a decade ago. If I hadn't been put on statins, would I have ended up having diabetes and needing a triple bypass and all that stuff? I can't say yes or no, but I suspect that the statins contributed to that. And I know I was in mental decline. I didn't realize how much of a mental decline I was in until I threw the statins in the trash can on day one of my carnivore diet. And I slowly, over the course of the next 30, 40 days, realized just how much I'd lost.
Yeah. And Johnny says worldwide statin sales is $19 billion per year.
That's crazy.
Yep. And that's exactly why the doctors are going to continue to push the statins, because, that's it's all about the money there. The pharmaceuticals are driving that. And the other thing is, like, a lot of the research that happens out there, they're funding that research. That's like, you brought up Feldman and so forth, and Dr. Sean Baker has talked about this. It's been a little bit of a struggle to get the funding that they need to do some of this research, just because they don't have the backing of the pharmaceuticals, because it goes against what they're trying to do, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But they have their new statin now. I mean, the statins they're still going to push the statins, but the big drugs they're pushing right now, of course, are the GLP-1 inhibitors. Ozempic, Wegovy, those aren't going to have much of a shelf life. But the demand for those has gone up so much that Novo Nordisk bought out like 3 smaller companies in the European Union to use their facilities so that they could produce even more of the Wegovy and Ozempic, because sales are going through the roof right now, even though I don't think it's going to be more than 3 or 4 years before massive lawsuits shut that drug down. And it's all being sold here in the U.S. because those drugs are not approved in any other country in the world.
Yeah. Well, that's just like, you look at like cereal, for instance, and you look at the ingredients here in the U.S. compared to other countries, and there's so much more sugar in it here in the U.S. than there is.
Just don't allow that.
A lot of that food.
And the additives and preservatives and dyes and everything.
There are 4 ingredients in Doritos and Cheetos in the American brand that they're not allowed to sell in the UK. So if you pick up a UK bag of Doritos and compare the ingredient list to a US bag of Doritos, the ingredient list is completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's seriously wrong with that.
Yep. All right. I just want to remind everybody that's watching, if you have any questions for Bob, just go ahead and put them in the chat with a Q in the front so that we can easily find the question. See, we've been talking about health, healing with low carb carnivore. Obviously, Bob is doing carnivore diet. I've been doing carnivore diet. Aaron does a low carb diet. They all kind of have a lot of the similar pieces to them, right? We stay away from sugar. We stay away from processed foods, that kind of thing. If you're doing low carb, you're probably doing some whole food, like vegetables and fruits and stuff like that, that we don't do on carnivore, but that's kind of basically about the only difference, really.
Yeah. It's about not eating garbage, basically. all of us. You
but
know,
you're still eating some kind of plant, aren't you, Aaron?
what?
You're still eating some form of plants, aren't you?
Some, but most of my stuff is yeah, I got you on that.
Mhm. Just saying.
I'm still mostly eating though animal based though.
Yeah, no. And as I say on my channel, and I've talked about it quite a bit, you probably both know who James is at Ready Set Keto. He has many times said he knows he feels better when he does strict carnivore, like whenever they're doing a beef, butter, bacon, and eggs challenge. But he also knows himself and knows that he could not sustain that long term. He has to have, like, he goes to some restaurant and gets these lettuce wrap things. If it's a little bit there, and you know yourself, if that little bit of edge keeps you from having the chocolate bar, then by all means have that little bit of edge.
Yeah.
I'd be happier if you didn't have that little bit of edge, but if that little bit of edge is what keeps you from going completely off the rails, or as I like to say, not falling off the wagon, but push, as long as it keeps you from pushing your wagon into the ditch, chopping it up for firewood and selling the firewood to buy donuts.
There's a big difference between having a piece of fruit or some vegetables and downing Pop-Tarts and Doritos. That's my thing.
The vegetables, yeah.
You know,
I won't comment on fruit because I think fructose is a whole nother ball of poison.
Minimal fruit. Not talking 8 pieces a day, but that's okay.
Yeah. So we're not talking about like Paul Saladino type fruit.
No, my God. No, jeez. Oh dear. Oh my God.
Yes.
Feral Grandma says, not a question, but after 50 months at about 90 to 95% carnivore, I am free of eczema. That is good news. Congratulations.
Yep. And if you haven't watched Kismet, who is the feral grandma, she has a channel and she's getting the hang of it. She's got some interesting stuff out there.
Good. And so you were talking about how basically even if you're doing like low carb, like a lot of times people say that they know that they feel better when they're just eating meat, but that they know themselves, and if that's what you need to do to keep yourself on track, that works good. Mm-hmm. I can even say to myself, just looking at carnivore, I always feel better if I'm basically just eating beef. If I cut out like pork and chicken and stuff like that, right? I feel even better. I just feel great eating that way. But it's very hard for me to stick with that. And, I like chicken wings and things like that. So I'll eat those foods too. But then every once in a while I go and I just eat, a steak, ground beef, whatever, and eat that for maybe a week or two. And I feel really good with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I know it's not fair, but as Professor K tells us, 95% carnivore versus 100% carnivore. That last 5%, most people will see a half again as much improvement.
Yeah.
So you'll see remarkable extra improvement cutting out that last 5%. It's very hard for most people to cut out that last 5%, and it's not fair, but that's just the way it is. It can't be bargained with. If you're eating that other 5% that's not carnivore, you're putting some kind of anti-nutrient in your body. Again, whatever you can do to stick with it, I think is what you should do, as long as you realize that 100% carnivore is a lot better for you than 95% carnivore.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron. I know it sort of seems like I'm picking on you, but I'm not actually.
No, I don't.
We're picking
Hey,
on Aaron tonight. That's okay.
Got to do what works for them, for their
Yep.
situation, and this works for me. And definitely there is that psychological component, like you said, where if I don't allow myself certain things, it's not going to be good. I mean, I've lost 50 pounds, and I don't want it to find me again.
Sure.
And that's where I am. And I feel better now than I did in my 20s. So I'm going to stick with what works at this point. It doesn't mean that if I ever had to make changes, I wouldn't. It just means that this is working. So we will go with it.
Yeah. And when you find something that works, why change it, right? Keep with it
Unless
as
you
long
want
as it's
to.
not causing
That's just
problems,
it. I mean,
right?
as long as what you're doing is working, there's no reason to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But I look at what a lot of other people are eating in this country, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, even if you're 95% carnivore, you're doing so much better than somebody that's eating the standard American diet. They're going to McDonald's or wherever, and they're getting the French fries and the soda and all that stuff. And
scary. It is scary.
We have the single best sandwich in the world here that I, of course, can't eat anymore. There's a restaurant out here called Don and Millie's, and they have a local thing called a cheese Frenchie. Think a grilled cheese sandwich, battered and deep fried. Oh, so good.
so good, but so bad, right?
Yeah.
So Johnny from Champion Within is asking where you live now. Did you? I know the last time I was talking to you, you were talking about moving. Did you get to move already, or?
No, that's happening this fall. I currently am in Omaha, Nebraska. I'll be here through the miniature golf season this year, and then that yellow outline on the screen behind me is my 10 acres in the West Texas desert.
Okay.
And I will be going there sometime mid to late September of this year. And I wanted to save up some money, and I'm going to work the miniature golf season this year to have even more money saved up. Because when I get down there, it's going to cost me about $3,000 for the shipping container that I want. It's going to cost me about $3,000 for the materials to build a roof over that shipping container. It's going to cost me about $3,000 for a water tank to put a water tank on the property. And it's going to cost about $3,000 to fence the whole property in. So I need that much money just to get started.
Yeah. Okay.
So everybody, you want to help out? There's a super chat button down there. Go ahead and hit it up and send me all your money.
There you go.
That's funny.
So I saw a question come in for Aaron about how long you've been low carb, but then I did see you answer it too. I don't know if you want to talk about it really quick.
So this time around, the day that I found out when my gastroenterologist said you're going gluten-free, I just did it all at once. I went extremely low carb. I was pretty much, I guess, ketovore. And then over some time, I've told the ladies in my group this before. I was pounding down the electrolytes so much to just try to stay normal. Like I've always had an issue like where I needed more sodium and whatnot. So I upped my carbs a little bit. I became keto and then just transitioned over the course of time, mainly because of the strength training program and stuff that I'm doing. But yeah, so I pretty much done the whole thing. And then years back, I also said this in the chat, I was told to go low carb by a nutritionist back when I initially started with all these symptoms that were probably celiac and whatnot. And the one thing that I remember is her saying, just try to stay under 100 carbs a day, she told me. And I didn't really know why or understand. And I was still eating other things at that point. It wasn't really as like whole foods based as it is now. But back then, it was a good thing back then too. So that's my history.
Cool. I'll put Bob back on the big screen for us. All right.
You don't have to do that.
Katie says, I lost 2 chins and never want to find them.
Yeah, I've lost 2 or 3 or 4 chins. I still have a little bit of loose skin here on my neck, but I don't know that that's ever going to go away because I am 60 years old. So if that loose skin never goes away, no big deal.
Yeah. You got the health benefits. Who cares about the looks for at this point, right? Yeah. That's exactly how I feel too. So I hear you there.
Yeah.
So I think Bubbles is the one that asked Erin about how long she was on low carb.
Karen, yeah.
So Bubbles says, I've evolved over my 6-year journey, started keto with lots of substitute recipes, moved to less recipes, to more carnivore. I lost the taste for many of my old favorites.
Yeah.
And Deb says that she started her journey in 2005. Progression of different diets until now carnivore. I'm sorry, Bob, what were you going to say?
No, that's okay. I see that a lot in people where they start off keto and they, start off with all of the keto recipes. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I like a good keto recipe as much as the next person, but all of those substitutes for what we used to eat can sometimes trigger us to find, it's like, oh, this is just like the lasagna I used to have. And then, well, maybe a little pan of lasagna wouldn't hurt anything. And that can snowball into a lot of other things. Or even if you're having the fat bombs and the keto treats, you're like, oh, well, this is fine. This is a keto treat. It's not such a keto treat if you have 40 of them in a day. So I see a lot of people that have said, I fell into that keto trap. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people doing really good stuff with keto recipes out there, and they're doing just fine on their keto diet. But removing that trigger, that link to our old life of this sort of tastes like lasagna or this sort of tastes like a baked potato, removing that link, I think for many people helps it eliminate the cravings forever, which is why I love the carnivore diet. Because, I mean, would I like to run down to the corner store and grab a pizza every once in a while? Sure. But a big chunk of pot roast is so much better.
Yeah. And I got to agree with you about that whole thinking, because I started actually on keto, did a couple months of keto before I went to carnivore. And I probably didn't wait long enough to see if I would see like differences in my health and so forth. But I went, into keto and wasn't seeing a whole lot. So then I went to carnivore, and I'm glad that I did it, because I have found that I am the type of person that if you put the food like in front of me, I'm gonna want it. And I have noticed that when I was doing keto, even maybe that was part of why I wasn't losing weight, was like I would do some different keto recipes. And I'd be like, yeah, this is pretty good. But then I would be like, but I really just want to eat that instead, right? That sugary thing. And so, yeah, I'm definitely the type of person that didn't do well that way, and other people can do fine that way. But so I definitely understand where that comes from, that that train of thought.
Yeah, I never did like the keto treats or any of that. I any keto that I was doing, I was just doing like the whole foods basically. I'm too lazy for all of those 100-step recipes, so find it easier just to cook up a burger or something like that,
Yeah.
But or have a little heavy whipping cream on something, or So.
Yeah. The only weird thing that I run into sometime is I don't anticipate and make enough food in my meal sometimes. I think I've gotten better with that, but I don't know, like Bob, do you ever run into that where you just didn't make enough food to where you got fully satiated? And then like, what do you do in that case? Because I'm sure most of what you're eating, you need to cook, right? Do you just start cooking more, or how do you do that?
Yeah, if I find myself a little bit on the still hungry side, I just grab another 6 eggs out of the fridge, throw them in the pan, scramble them up. It takes 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I guess that brings me up another good question. Like, how often do you eat? Are you like more of the OMAD or a couple times a day, 3 times a day? How do you do it? Once?
One meal a day. I average about 1.25 pounds of ground beef and 8 eggs. That's my baseline meal. Because when I buy the ground beef in the big 10-pound chubs, and I don't get my tape measure out and go, okay, this is the exact spot I want to cut it to get 1.25 pounds. I just sort of eyeball it and go chop, 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 throw it all in Ziploc baggies and throw it in the freezer. But as I'm pulling them out, if it looks a little light, I'll make 10 or 12 eggs. If it looks a little heavy, I'll have 6 eggs. And like I said, I don't ever, what the heck is with my camera? There we go. I don't ever get more ground beef out, but I will, like I said, if I have finished and still feel a little hungry, I will throw a few more eggs in the skillet and scramble them up because, like I said, that takes maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll go, okay, I'm still hungry, and I'll put 4 or 5 eggs in the skillet, scramble them up, put them on the plate, and go, I don't want those. And they just don't get eaten until the next time I eat.
Yeah. Well, that's always the good thing. Like, if you overcook, it's fine. It just goes in the fridge, and the next time you eat, it works.
I mean, I love that when my husband will go out and like grill like a crap ton of burgers and chicken and everything else, and it's just there. When you need something, you grab it. You know, makes it so much easier.
Yeah. So, Erin, you said that you've been eating, what, 4 times a day? Is that right?
I do 4. I mean, I did intermittent fasting for a long time. And then especially when I started with the weightlifting, I just had to, I was told you need to be getting in more food. So then I was doing 2 meals a day with the IF. And then I moved up to 3. And then I found that wasn't enough because I eat like a lot. And, finally settled on format. And the hardest part is like spreading that out and starting early enough that I actually, I'm hungry at my next meal. Like usually I'm not hungry, you know, which I don't love, but I'm working towards the muscle goals. So that's what I'm doing. So we'll see.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Eat
a lot.
bigger meals.
I try that too, you know, and sometimes like if I don't have time for 4 meals, I'll squeeze the last 2 together. But sometimes it's like, oh, I'm stuffed and I'm still trying to eat, you know, which how natural is that? But
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so I'm mostly twice a day, but it depends because I kind of do I eat when I'm hungry thing, right? So I'm mostly twice a day. I can't remember the last time I ate 3 times a day. So it's mostly twice, but sometimes it's just once a day. Like a good example would be today, I had like a 20-ounce New York strip and 2 ground beef that I made into like 2 patties. It was a little less than a pound. So altogether, that was like 2 pounds. And so far, I haven't gotten hungry. So I might not, we're 8 o'clock now on the East Coast. So I probably will not eat again today. Sometimes though, I'll eat. Typically I eat like around 1.5 pounds at my first meal. And then sometimes I might eat like another pound or maybe even up to 1.5 pounds in my second meal. So it depends, you know. One thing I found is it's hard for me to go over like maybe 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds in one meal. I just get too full, can't eat again. And I think that's why I haven't done OMAD as much. Something that going back almost a year ago, I was doing a little more with OMAD, but I just haven't been able to do that recently just because I just go with when I get hungry again. So, and I feel like I'm just blabbling on now. I don't know.
Yeah. And during the summer, and we'll see what happens, because during the summer when I'm cutting the grass and doing the yard work, plus going to the Y, plus working in the miniature golf course, and all of the other stuff that I do, my food intake over the summer last year was up to where I was eating about 3 pounds of beef a day in one meal. And that still wasn't quite enough. So I would have about another half a pound plus 4 or 5 eggs as a smaller second meal. So I understand when you get, when you're working out and doing all that stuff, but I also understand that you need to be careful to make sure, and if you have either a continuous glucose monitor or some kind of a way to check, you do want to make sure, especially those of you that are eating 4 smaller meals, you want to make sure that you're eating enough so that you're getting at least a little bit of an insulin bump at least once a day. Because if your insulin stays flatline all the time, Professor K tells us that can cause problems with your kidneys long term. So you want to make sure that at least once a day you're getting that good insulin bump. Not a spike like carbs give you, but you definitely want that insulin surge at least once a day.
Yeah. All right. A reminder for everybody, if you have any questions, go ahead and put a Q in front of it and ask away. Don't see any questions. I don't think I missed any. So there's been a lot of good conversation going on, but I don't think I saw anything there. In terms of questions, I know a few people had to leave. So William, goodbye, William. Nice to have you as always. Where else was it? Bubbles said good night. Katie, my 2 chihuahuas are always willing to help out. So I have a dog that is eating mostly carnivore, and I'll do that too. Like if I have something left over that I just couldn't finish, just cut up, a little bit of steak or whatever for her, and she loves it.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. My dogs love me because they're always getting the plates to lick and the little pieces of this and that.
Yeah.
I don't have pets. I am not a responsible enough person to keep pets. I killed a fake plant once upon a time, so I'm not.
But you don't like
going
plants,
to try
Bob? No.
Well, it was a plant, so that's okay, right? Oh.
Yeah, I'm not good with that stuff either. We have these plants that basically you only have to water like once a month or whatever.
Well, this was a fake plant that my mom got me. It was a very nice, expensive plant. She got me when I moved from Southern Ohio to Nebraska. And beautiful silk plant. I just didn't realize where I put it in my apartment, and the heat had not really been on. Yeah. And then that fall when it got cold, I realized that it was too close to the heating register, and the silk plant dried and curled up. So yes, I have killed a fake plant. So I don't feel like I'm a responsible enough person to have pets.
Yeah. Well, again, at least it was a plant, fake plant, whatever, I wonder how, so like, I'm probably going way off topic here, and this is probably crazy, but so how they have fake meat? Do vegans eat fake plants too, or just plants? They have fake meat?
I don't understand the fake anything. I figure if it's so good that you have to have the fake version, just have the real thing. I don't know. That's just my philosophy.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, like, why, if somebody doesn't like meat, right, doesn't want to eat meat, why would you want to eat?
Don't eat the meat. Eat something else. Yeah, that's
why
what
do you want to eat some fake meat? I don't know. I guess that's kind of like a carnivore saying, like, we don't really do like elaborate recipes and so forth because we just eat meat. It's just basic, the meat, right? So I don't know. That's just a weird thought I had. Who knows? Max says I live in Florida. I put my plants on the is that lanai?
Lanai, yeah.
Lanai, and
Lanai,
that's all I have
yeah.
to do. The humidity satisfies their thirst, and the sun provides their health needs.
It's like a sauna.
Yeah. Oh, Katie has to go. Been fun. Thanks for being here, Katie. All right. What's this one? Saying that tattoo vegetarians for years. If you want to eat vegetables, just eat vegetables. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, back years ago when I thought that like that was healthy, I would have the veggie burger or whatever, but it wasn't good. It didn't really taste
That's what I was gonna say. Like it tastes horrible, right?
You know.
Have you ever looked at the ingredients of those things?
Oh, yeah, that
it's
too.
A chemical crap storm.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
You might as well go down to your local chemical plant and say, "Could I just have a glass of chemicals to drink, please?" Because
it's so bad.
They might even taste better than the fake meat.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It really is.
I don't know. I mean, like, does anybody really think that the fake meat tastes good? Because I've never tried it, but anything I've ever heard from anybody that has is like it's really bad. And it's like, why did you even eat it? Why? I just don't get it.
Yeah, why eat all that chemical crap? Just eat your vegetables or whatever. You know, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into plant-based, then just eat the vegetables. I don't get it. Oh well, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Aaron, did you have, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any questions for Semi-Retired Bob?
Yeah, but it's not food related. I'm actually curious about this trucking career history because that absolutely fascinates me. Like, do you have like any really good stories, you know, from your trucking days? What you saw traveling? No, you probably do. But you're
not really.
His mind's racing right now. He's like, I can't tell that one. I can't tell that one.
Yeah, all I will say that the reason that I was a van life consumer of YouTube and why I have a 5x10 cargo trailer outfitted like a camper, and I was going to go traveling in that until I bought this piece of property and decided to do homesteading instead, because I've seen this entire country multiple times, but it's been from the windshield of a 80,000-pound truck.
Yeah.
And you can't park an 80,000-pound truck at most places that I wanted to see. So from where my property is, I will be taking little excursions to places to go see a lot of the stuff that I couldn't see while I was driving my truck.
Yeah. So you know what else I forgot to ask? Were you, I don't know when you retired, but were you carnivore prior to retiring, or this was all after?
No, I've only been I'm coming up on my 2-year carniversary.
Okay. I was just curious if you were, how you handled that on the road, because I see there are some people that I follow that are doing it on the road, and I always found that pretty interesting how they do stuff in their
I can see it would be much easier. It's not a big deal because I mean you've got a full kitchen in the truck.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
At least the companies I worked for had full kitchens. I mean, I had microwave and refrigerator and coffee pots.
Wow. Okay. That's cool.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I mentioned
if you
earlier,
really wanted to, because of the inverters and such, you could, if you decided to give up some of the space for your clothes, you could actually put like an air fryer in one of the cabinets and pull that out to cook a steak.
That's cool.
So I was going to mention, I mentioned earlier that Greg from My Weight Loss Life couldn't make it tonight, but he did get the
Hey,
opportunity
Greg.
to post really quick on here. So he just said, thanks for tuning in tonight. Sorry I missed everyone. I appreciate all of you. I hope to be back next week. Thanks for coming on, Bob. God bless. And Johnny has another question for you, Bob. Did you ever fail that Department of Transportation physical? I guess, is that what he says?
Yeah,
DOT?
Department of Transportation. You have to take physical every 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I never actually failed one. After my heart surgery, I spent the next 3 months rehabbing to go back to work, and then discovered a week before I was supposed to go back to work that my doctor would not sign off, because coming off of a heart surgery, he has to sign a form that says my chest is 100% healed. My chest never healed until I started doing carnivore, and my sternum finally knitted up to where it feels solid now. So I spent my entire rehab towards going back to work as a truck driver, and then that did not happen because I could not have passed the DOT physical without the form from my doctor. And I've been retired since then.
Okay.
Makes sense, yeah.
So let's see, we have about 10 minutes or so here left. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat now. Of course, put a Q in the front. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about next week really quick. Sounds like Greg thinks that he'll be back next week, so that's good. So we'll have 3 of us hosting again, and we're going to have Larry from Carnivore Soldier on the show next week, next Thursday. That'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so 6 p.m. Central time. So another carnivore, I know we're loading you guys up with carnivores, which is fine for me because I'm a carnivore myself, but Aaron, it's okay. So 2 weeks in a row with carnivores on here to teach you about carnivore, but that's okay.
I'll send the Carnivore Soldier a note and make sure he picks on Aaron when he gets here.
There you go.
Too funny.
So Johnny says he failed a D.O. I don't know, the D.O. Whatever that is.
Was it supposed to be a T? He's a truck driver too, correct?
Yes, he is. Yeah. So I know that he was doing that before carnivore, and that he had some health issues to where he couldn't continue, and then he started, doing other things. And now that he's been carnivore for a while, lost a lot of weight, gotten healthier again, he's gone back into the trucking business. So
that's cool.
Oh, here we go. He said, I failed
Wow.
DOT physical due to AFib and high blood pressure when carnivore and then pass. Yes. So like me, Johnny had AFib. His was a little bit different than mine, like where he actually had times where he was stuck in it and he couldn't get out of it and had to do the cardio version to get out of it. And then like the next day he'd be back in it again. In my case, most of the time I just had episodes that I would go back out of naturally. I did have one time I had to have a cardio version done. So it's a little bit different in his case than my case, but we both have fixed, this fits well with our, talking about healing on carnivore diet. We both fixed our AFib issues with the carnivore diet. Johnny's been like 6 months or so now carnivore, I guess, without an episode. And I am about to hit 20 months on carnivore diet here and haven't had an episode. And I used to have 2 to 3 episodes a week before carnivore.
I have a question for you on that, Brian. Did your cardiologist ever bring up anything dietary related with the AFib?
Not really, only to the extent of you should lose some weight and that'll help a little bit. But it was always your father had AFib, it's hereditary, and it's just going to continue to get worse, which it did. It was continuing to get worse until I went to carnivore and changed my nutrition all around, and now it's gone. The interesting thing though is as this has happened, he's been very receptive to it. And he's like, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. And kind of like you, Bob, I used to take Eliquis for blood thinner, and I'm off of that now. And I was seeing him every 6 months. I'm, as of the last time, it's like, come back in a year, you're doing great, that type of thing. So it's funny because you talked about how your cardiologist was more receptive, but your primary care physician was not. And I kind of had the same type of thing, I wonder why it is that the cardiologists seem to be a little more receptive to eating this way. But when you bring it up to a primary care physician, they're like, oh, that's a bad thing. Don't do that. And I'm like, really? You just saw that I lost 80 pounds. My levels are better than they've ever been. My triglycerides are way down from where they were. And you're telling me that I shouldn't do that. I just don't get that.
Cardiologists are smarter.
Yeah. I had the opposite experience. I had my general practitioner was good about the low carb thing. And my cardiologist was more like, well, you know what, you can do low carb and not high fat. And, he was concerned about the LDL and all that. But I asked you the question about the AFib because back years ago when I don't even think I ever mentioned it, I was having a lot of issues with PVCs, and then I had SVT a lot. I never diagnosed with AFib, but with other arrhythmias. And I remember him saying to me that a lot of them are connected to something that you're eating, but it's nearly impossible to figure out what. So that's why I was wondering if he ever brought up diet with you. So
yeah, no, it really hasn't. It was just you could lose a little bit of weight, and I did ask my primary care doctor. This was before going carnivore, like what diet he thought I should do, and he said the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, that's what my one doctor said too. Yeah.
So I ended up going keto, and then that didn't really work so well. So then I went carnivore, and I was like, man, I don't even know that I can tell this guy I'm carnivore. So I just said that I was like kind of low carb, and he's like, oh, that's a bad idea. And I was just like, oh, okay, but you just saw.
But the standard American diet is good.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand.
I had my triglycerides in like a 6-month period went from like 279 to like 112 or 108, something like that. And I don't get it, like whatever. But actually he left, so I don't even have I'm like, Bob, actually I don't have a primary care physician right now. I guess I need to find one. But
well, one more quick point I want to make on that, because everybody always gets excited. Oh, my LDL is through the roof, or my triglycerides are high, or my HDL is low, or whatever it is this lab number is out of normal, so I need to do something about it. How do they determine what is normal on a lab test? Do you think there's the scientists in the horn-rimmed glasses and the long white coats sitting around a table looking at experiments and stuff to find out what the normal is? No, they just call up all their doctor buddies and say, hey, send us your test results for this for the next month. They collect all those test results, they plot them on a chart, and that midline of the bell curve is what they call normal. What do 99% of all the people on that bell curve have in common?
They're unhealthy.
They're eating a standard Western diet.
Correct. It's the average of all the unhealthy people.
It's the average of all the unhealthy people. So that's why so many times on my channel, I say, don't worry about labs. If you get a lab that's way out of whack, first of all, why are you even going to the doctor just to get labs? If something doesn't hurt or something hasn't changed color and looks like it's about to fall off, why in the world are you spending money to go to a doctor? Secondly, you have to ask yourself, what exactly does this lab measure? And why might it be out of whack? And then I tell people, Dr. Barry and Kim Howerton wrote a book together called Common Sense Labs. Link in the description. I highly recommend everybody own that, because not only does it have what the labs say are normal values, it also has what Dr. Barry and Kim Howerton think the normal range should be for people eating a proper human diet. And the other thing that it has is, I forget what it's called, but there's a code on each test that you can give to your doctor so that your insurance will pay for that lab test. If you really, really want the numbers, because you just have to have the numbers, then get this book and get the code so your insurance will pay for it. Me personally, I will go to a local lab and use Common Sense Labs. I didn't even get a lipid panel the last time I did that. There are 4 or 5 primary markers for cancer that I want to check, just to be sure. And other than that, I don't really care what my lipid panel looks like. Because as professor, let me see if I get this exactly right. Your genes are in control of the lipids in your body, and they have been adjusting your lipid profile from both positive and negative pressures for roughly 4.5 million years. They're probably not wrong.
Well, we're at 8:30 here in the Eastern time zone, so we've been at an hour and a half. Bob, I want to give you maybe like a minute or two here, just to talk to the audience. Anything that you really want to talk about before we finish up the show tonight?
Yeah, well, first I'm going to comment to the very last comment there is, have you got that red nose checked out? I have a cold. If you weren't here for the beginning, I have a very bad cold, but I'm suffering through it here because this guest appearance has been scheduled for about a month now, and I didn't want to have to reschedule it, because by the time another month happens, it'll be time for miniature golf to be open, and my time gets much, much shorter. I'm sorry, I just completely forgot what your question was there, Brian.
Oh, I was just giving you the opportunity to say whatever you wanted to say. So,
yeah, well, that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that my nose is red because I have a cold. It doesn't need to be checked out. It's red because I have a cold, and I'm a cheapskate old man. I don't have puffs. I have a roll of toilet paper.
There's sandpaper under there.
That does explain
that's exactly right. But yeah, if you haven't checked out, if you're watching this and you haven't checked out my channel, be sure and go over and check out my channel at Semi-Retired Bob. I have a Facebook group that's absolutely free. Stop on by and say hi. But yeah, just don't forget, you have to get out there and be 1% better every day.
I was waiting for that. All right. Thank you, Bob. Aaron, anything that you wanted to ask Bob or anything before we drop off?
Well, he wouldn't answer my trucker story question, so I guess that's I guess that's it. No.
Okay. Oh, we got one question that just came in. So
that's Craig. He knows full well I have a cold. He's one of my regulars.
He didn't get sunburned.
Yeah. No, I have a really bad cold. And in case you weren't here at the beginning, we lived together last night, so I got infected by a computer virus.
Yes, he's definitely been blaming Dave all night about that. So. All right, Bob, I want to thank you again for coming on the show tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great having you. Yep.
Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's great having you. Thanks everybody for watching. And let me see. I think I got a little thing for thanks for watching. Here we go.